Have you ever used an app that just feels right? And then others that feel, well, clunky and frustrating? Today we're going to pull back the curtain on why that is. And spoiler alert, it has almost nothing to do with pretty pixels. It's all about psychology. Let's dive in.
This quote, it really hits the nail on the head, doesn't it? Because you can pour your heart and soul into making the most gorgeous design in the world, but if it's actively fighting against how our brains are wired, it's destined to fail. Way too many designers are doing just that, flying blind, because they're ignoring the real user interface, the one inside our heads.
Okay, get ready for this number. 8.25 seconds. What is that? That, my friends, is the average human attention span. Yes, you heard me right. It's now officially shorter than that of a goldfish. No joke. So in this incredibly noisy world, your design is in a constant war for just a handful of seconds. The stakes could not be higher.
So let's be real. If your design isn't quite landing with users, I can almost guarantee it's not because you picked the wrong font or a slightly off shade of blue. Nope, it's because you've misunderstood the actual operating system you're designing for. And that OS is the human brain. So let's pop the hood and see what's really going on in there.
Here's the first thing you absolutely have to accept. The user's brain is not some logical, perfectly rational computer. Far from it. It's more like a lazy, outdated survival machine. I love this analogy. Think of it like a drunk security guard. It gets distracted by shiny things. It's predictably irrational, and it is always looking for the path of least resistance. Its number one job, conserve energy at all costs.
And this whole idea of conserving energy brings us to a really powerful concept from the brilliant Daniel Kahneman. He basically said our brain has two different systems or modes of thinking, a fast one and a slow one. And I'm telling you, understanding this is basically the secret key to unlocking incredible design. Okay, so here's the breakdown. You've got System 1, that's your gut reaction, your autopilot. It's fast, unconscious, totally emotional. It's what you're using right now to understand my voice. It's always on, and it costs you basically zero energy. Then you have System 2. This is the slow, logical, effortful thinker. This is what you have to fire up to do your taxes or solve a tough math problem. It is exhausting. It burns a ton of mental calories, and frankly, your users will do pretty much anything to avoid using it.
And that leads us to what is pretty much the golden rule of UX. Great design is System 1 friendly. It works without thinking. The absolute best products, the ones we love and use every single day, are all designed for that lazy autopilot brain. I mean, think about it. When you do a Google search, do you really think about it? Or what about Amazon's one-click ordering? It's so smooth, it's almost unconscious. That's the goal.
This is so crucial to get. Every single time your design makes a user stop and think, every time you force them to wake up that slow, effortful System 2, you're basically opening an escape hatch. Every confusing button, every moment of friction is another reason for them to just give up and go do something else. Right, and this mental effort has a name. It's called cognitive load. Just think of it like your phone's battery. It's limited, and it's always draining. Now look, some of this load is fine, it's necessary for learning stuff. But there's this other kind, extraneous load, and that's the real enemy. That's the useless effort caused by just plain bad design, cluttered screens, confusing navigation. Our job as designers is to hunt that down and destroy it.
So how do we actually do that? How do we lower that cognitive load? Well, here's a fantastic little toolkit with 4 powerful strategies. First, chunking. Just group similar things together, so simple. Second, progressive disclosure. Don't throw everything at them at once. Just reveal what's needed step by step. Third, recognition over recall. Don't make people remember things. Show them the options. And finally, and this one's huge, reduce choices. Less really, truly is more.
And if you don't believe me about reducing choices, check this out. It's the famous jam study. A grocery store set up a tasting booth. On day 1, they offered 24 different jams. You know how many people bought one? A measly 3%. The next day, they offered only 6 jams. And guess what? 30% of people made a purchase. That's a 10 times increase in sales just by making the decision easier. That is the power of killing decision fatigue.
Okay, here's a super simple rule of thumb you can always use. I call it the grandma test. And it's simple. If your grandma can't figure out the basics of your app in 30 seconds, you've probably failed. Seriously, the goal is not to be clever, the goal is to be obvious. You want to make your user feel like a genius, not show them how smart of a designer you are. Now, this all leads to a really fascinating and kind of tricky question. When we start using psychology to guide people, where is the line between smart, helpful design and straight-up manipulation?
This is a huge conversation in the design world.
And that's where we get into the world of cognitive biases. Now, it's easy to think of these as bugs in our mental software, but they're not. They're features. They are shortcuts our brains evolved over millennia to help us make fast decisions and survive. And as designers, we can actually tap into these shortcuts to make our products feel way more intuitive and effortless.
Let's look at a few common ones you've definitely seen. There's anchoring. You see the super expensive Pro plan first, and suddenly the standard plan looks like a great deal, right? Or social proof. You see 10,000 people bought this today, and your brain thinks, well, it must be good. Then there's loss aversion. This is why Duolingo's streak is so powerful. We are terrified of losing something, way more than we enjoy gaining it. And finally, the default effect. We're lazy, so we just stick with whatever option is already checked for us.
So, back to that ethical line. Where is it? Really, it all comes down to intent. Are you using these psychological principles to help users make better, faster decisions for themselves? Or are you using them to trick people into doing things that only benefit your company? That's the difference between good design and what we call dark patterns. The goal should always be to empower your user, not to exploit them.
But you know what? All these psychological tricks, all this clever design, it's completely worthless if people don't trust you. Trust is the absolute foundation. If you don't have it, nothing else matters. It's your most valuable and most fragile asset.
And don't just take my word for it. Research from Stanford found that a whopping 75% of people judge a company's credibility based purely on its website design. Think about that. 3/4 of your users are deciding if they can trust you just by looking at your design. This isn't just about looking good, it's about signaling safety and professionalism.
So how do you build that trust? Well, it's all about sending the right signals. Things like having those little HTTPS lock icons and payment logos, showing real honest customer reviews, having a clean, professional design with no typos, and being transparent, clear pricing, and easy way to find contact info. All these little things add up and tell your user's brain, hey, it's safe here, you can relax.
Because at the end of the day, that's what this is all about. It's not just about what you show them on the screen. It's about what you make them feel. Does your design make them feel smart, capable, safe, understood? That's the real measure of great design.
So here's my challenge to you. The next time you sit down to design something, I want you to stop thinking about designing for a screen and start thinking about designing for a brain. A complex, emotional, and beautifully flawed human brain. If you can do that,